So when you can learn about yourself or even, just learn about the science of nutrition and training versus just like, here's a meal plan, like we don't do that. When you learn about the thing at a conceptual level, or you learn about the person at a like pattern level, that transmits everywhere. That goes everywhere in your whole life. If you like notice, a pattern of, oh, when I'm starting to feel, or when I'm not in a great place mentally, I don't take great care of myself. Okay. How does that show up in your relationships? When you're not feeling great, mentally, how do you show up in your relationships? Or when you're not feeling great mentally, how does that show up in your work? When you're not feeling great mentally, like, do you completely sacrifice yourself and just go into work hole mode? I know I've done that. Like, I'm like, oh, I went through a breakup. Okay. I'm going to go work more because I can. I have the time. I don't want to deal with this shit. But it's like, no. You can start to identify better sooner when your pendulum is starting to swing too far. Hey, what's up? I am Emily Duncan. I am the CEO of Emily Duncan Fitness, a human-centric, science-informed fitness coaching company. And today on Ever Forward Radio, we are talking about my most recent journey on this leg of becoming as a human. We're talking psychedelic experiences, spiritual awakenings, existential crises, trauma, and joy. So strap in. We're in for a ride. We're covering a lot of ground. And thank you so much, before everyone listens, for listening to the story, for holding the story, and for being who you are in this universe. We need you, and I love you. Enjoy.
3, 2, 1.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Ever Forward Radio here in downtown Austin at the IBL HQ Studios. I'm here back with an OG homie, an OG podcast homie for sure, Miss M. Dunk.
Hi, guys.
Welcome back.
So good to be here. It's so good to have you here in my city.
Now you can say that. It's your city. Absolutely.
It is. I run this bitch.
How has Austin been treating you? You can say whatever you want.
Love that. Austin has been beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
It's so cool. I could go on a tangent about this forever. I'll try and keep it short because I know we're introing, but like part
do
of
a tangent. You go, girl.
This is why I started podcasting. So I was like, I can't do caption limits. That's not my journey. I'm sorry.
This is an understood long format experience.
Yes, that's what people are here for, and we love that. But I've been to Austin probably like 5 or 6 times since July of last year. And the last time I was, and like every time I've been here, I'm like, oh, it's fun, it's cool. But we'd been kind of like in the suburbs and Airbnbs with the friends and all that stuff. I'd come downtown a few times, all that, whatever. But I was here in March. And I went through like a very large kind of spiritual awakening, trauma healing journey, existential crisis.
While you were here?
All sorts of things. No, like in the winter.
Okay.
So I came here right after that. And it was so interesting. I'm somebody that I've always felt like, and I think everybody kind of feels this way. I just think it's maybe a range or a depth of how they feel this way. But we have like our different parts, right? So like I have my business Emily. I have my fashion Emily. I have my spiritual Emily. I have my fitness Emily. And I've never really felt like I could just naturally and effortlessly be all of those things in one place at one time. I would kind of pick one or pick two and they could have their fun. And then, the other ones kind of had to take a back seat or whatever. But the last time I was here, I was like, oh man, I'm just so happy. Like, this is so fun, like all this stuff. And I was like, why were you just so in flow with yourself there? And then it dawned on me when I got home. I was like, all of your parts got to exist at one time. And obviously some of that's like internal work, but I think there is something to be said for the environment that you're in, the container that you're in, being able to hold whatever it is that you are. And I just felt that here the last time I was here. And I was like, I marinated on it for like a little while. And then I literally decided within like 2 weeks of moving here that I was going to move here. So I picked up, moved cross country from fucking Columbus, Ohio in 2 weeks. Yeah. And then we were here.
I remember I remember seeing that on social. And I was like, she's what? I mean, cool. Good for you. Like, I love Austin, but like, I love seeing people just go and grow and just get out of anywhere where you've been.
Yeah.
But I was like, damn, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It was nuts. It was and I'm such a hard launch person too. Like, I don't, like on the close friend story, we get a little wild there sometimes. But like, as far as like public, I'm like, we're hard launching only. Like, I literally, nobody knew about it until I was here. And I was like, surprise guys, moved to Austin. People are like,
love it.
Wait, did I miss something? I'm like, no, I just take my time for myself and like do my process. And also it happened in 2 weeks. So like needed to let family know, needed to let close friends know before like.
It's like a slow breakup.
Exactly.
Just ease out of the situation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, welcome to Austin. I feel like I can say, well, I don't live here, but it's kind of like my second home. Like like 4 times now, I think, this year.
Yeah.
And we're in June.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, I was telling you earlier, this Austin has kind of a little special place in my heart as well. I was stationed in San Antonio years ago, before the internets and before
it was Al Gore's internet back then.
Exactly. And his alone. Actually, it's funny you say that.
That's a reference that'll age both of us.
Truly, this if that didn't, this will. One of the very first times I ever came up here from San Antone I came to a Dellionaires party. See, I'm aging myself even more. So
is this like a Dell millionaire? Like the company?
Exactly. Like they were like one of the first big tech companies that came here, because I think Michael Dell is his name. Like I think he's from here, was living here, and a lot of people here like either worked there or invested. And I came up to a Dellionaires party. That's so crazy. Like my first ever just massive mansion, probably. I don't remember where it was. I was like, Austin's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It really is.
Here I am.
Yeah, it's really, one of my favorite things about it is like, you get the downtown vibe, but you also have nature literally right there.
Runs right through it.
Right in the middle of it. And so it really is like concrete jungle. But it's also super calming to be able to just be like, okay, I'm going to go like do my little work person thing and work at a coffee shop or at Co or whatever. But then be like, yo, I want to go out on a kayak and get away from everyone. Like, it's the best. Well,
I want to dig a little deeper into a little bit of that origin, all the things of like kind of what got you here, like literally here in Austin. I've been getting to connect with you more and more over the last couple of years.
And I just have to say, it's been so awesome. It's been so special. Like,
it's
meant
awesome.
a lot to me.
Thank
you really are. You're Zac Efron's doppelganger, like spiritual Zac Efron. We love that.
He's now a partner with Kodiak Cakes. And so, like,
wow.
I feel like I've been supporting them for years now. So maybe I am. I don't know.
6 degrees of separation.
We'll see. Actually, I have 1 degree of separation. I'm friends with Darren O'Lean. Yes.
No way.
Down to Earth is co-host.
That show.
Yeah.
Loved it. Started rewatching. I've rewatched it like 3 times.
I discovered Darren through that show, and then we became podcast homies, and I just saw him like a couple weeks ago.
That's so dope.
So 1 degree.
1 degree.
1 degree for Mr. Efron.
Hey, well, you girl's single.
Emily is available. And so I digress. I blame you for that one.
I'll take it.
But that's why I have so much love for you. I love you as a human being. I love you as a friend, and so many things. Because watching your evolution, and even in that dark time, that kind of wild emotional, which I want to get to actually have you explain before it led you here, like watching another person go through so many of the multifacetedness that is being a human. Like all these different versions of Emily, like we were talking about before. Like that's a big part of what I am going through and have been really leaning into the last like 2 years. And so it's just like kind of like validation. It's also support. It also is humanizing to see another human being willingly, consciously stepping into the eye of the hurricane of their own shit, of their own life. And just choosing to work through and just be present with everything. And so for that, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
I love watching your evolution.
Thank you.
And I want to ask you, what was that kind of culmination of that particular period of your evolution that made you realize I need to move, I need to change all these things? Like what was going on there?
So deep dive. I know you talk about psychedelics all the time on the show. So it would be really easy for me to call it a bad trip, but it wasn't a bad trip. It was the trip that I needed. And that's what I believe about psychedelics deep down in my heart. They will never show you what you want. They will show you what you need, whether you are ready for it or not. And I just think I wasn't ready. And so long story short, I had a medicine ceremony in November. It was actually here. It was up on Lake Travis. And
what was the medicine?
I sat with Bufo.
Okay.
So 5-MeO, and it was combo and Bufo together in ceremony. And basically, actually, you know what? I won't even make sense of it yet. I had my ceremony, and the thing about Bufo compared to like ayahuasca, if we're going to compare like to like, because ayahuasca is a form of DMT. Ayahuasca, you're there, and I've never done it, but from what I know from others that have, you're in there for a long journey. It's like it's a long trip. Bufo is very fast.
I haven't done it yet either myself, but I hear as well.
Yeah. Bufo is 15 to 20 minutes. You're in, you're out. And so I think that almost makes it harder. And actually, some people believe that like Bufo is kind of like the pinnacle psychedelic even above ayahuasca. Just depends on who you ask. But I didn't know that going in. I was just like, yeah, I'm going to expand my consciousness and like it's going to be really great.
I must have missed that asterisk. I missed the fine print on that one.
This is facts. But I went into this ceremony and I'd spent honestly pretty much all of 2020, or sorry, not 2020, 2021, really healing from some deep trauma from when I was 16 that I didn't know I had.
You didn't know
And
you had.
I didn't know I had because
Wow.
I had buried it. Because I had buried it in the sense that when you go through a traumatic event, your brain makes holes. And so you don't really, like, to protect you. Your brain literally makes a blackout to protect you. But also buried it in the sense that I had watered it down in my own mind so that I didn't have to admit to myself how impactful that it was.
Like, it wasn't that important. It
Right.
wasn't that severe. It wasn't that
bad.
anything.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't, this. It wasn't, that. I really gaslit myself a lot. And then I opened up the psychedelic world because I was actually thought I was healing from trauma from like having breast implants. Because, I went through the whole breast implant illness thing and I was like, oh, I think I might be like dealing with some residual trauma from that. So like that was kind of my intro point into really doing psychedelics.
Was that more, would you say, physical trauma healing?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm sure it
trauma.
had some emotional tie-ins.
Big emotional, but yeah, the bigger thing was definitely physical. And like I was like, oh, I want to make sure everything's cleared out of my body, all this stuff. No. But it turned out that my psychedelic healing journey was actually about stuff that happened a decade ago when we got into the meat of it. And so going into my Bufo ceremony, I had already done 2 heroic ceremonies with psilocybin. Like I was like, oh, I'm ready for this. My bitch ass. Like,
famous last words.
I'm ready for Bufo. No. Okay. But I did this ceremony and I'm in the journey and basically how it went. And you kind of like it's so hard to explain.
I'm sure it's a lot to process. It's even more to explain.
Right. Because if you've never experienced it, you're like, what the fuck? And like, believe me, when you're in it, you're also like that. But Bufo, you get kind of like, you inhale it through almost like a crack pipe. But our medicine woman, she was very good at explaining everything to us. She was very good at explaining what we would experience. Very much so like Bufo is the only transpersonal molecule. So it's, seen to connect you to the collective consciousness, or that's how a lot of people have like explained it. And so you I haven't
inhale.
Heard that.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So you take the pipe, you do a really big inhale, and then she says, I'm going to put my hand to your face so that you can't exhale, and then you'll start to go back. And so I start going back, and it's almost like did you ever have like kaleidoscopes when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like looking in a
I was
kaleidoscope.
going to say, also I've done ketamine. So there's that. Yeah.
We love ketamine. Ketamine
it's
girl.
the adult kaleidoscope.
That's
in a way.
The ketamine kaleidoscope. We love her. We love her so much. But yeah, so like the kaleidoscope vision, very like gold and white for me. But the kaleidoscope vision. And then like I could feel as she was holding me as I sat back, it was like her hand became part of my body and like the oneness began. And it was almost I could hear everything slowing down, almost like a shing, 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 shing sound. And so then I'm just like transported in, like, long story short, I talked with my dead grandfather, who was my first grandparent to pass. He passed from lung cancer when I was in 4th grade. We had an exchange and it was really beautiful. Like it was basically just this moment where when I was in 4th grade and he had lung cancer, he was like, honestly, the best mindset of anybody that I've ever seen have a disease. Like as he was starting to lose his hair, he would just like put on one of those hats that had hair attached to it just to make us laugh. And like, he just had the best mindset around it the whole time. And he was just one of the best men. And he ran his own business.
Knowing that he was actively dying.
Right. Knowing that he was actively dying, going through chemotherapy. Like, and so there was one day I vividly remember they had a big like ranch style house that he built and this giant yard. And I would go like do cartwheels in the backyard. And so one day I was going to go do cartwheels in the yard and like didn't go to the backyard. I went to the front yard and he was too sick to get up to come out with me. Like you couldn't walk that far out like and make it. So I remember he sat in his big blue rocking chair in front of this big picture window that they had out in front of the yard. And he just watched me the whole time. And I don't know and that's like one of the most vivid childhood memories that I have in a positive sense. Clearly, I've learned that I don't have a lot of positive childhood memories. Not that I didn't have a good childhood, but just that's how my brain has been. And so I remember him sitting there and watching me the whole time. And as I've thought about that as an adult, I'm like, I don't know if that was a dying man's wish. I don't know if that was for me. I don't know if it was for both, but he just wanted me to make sure this little 4th grade girl just doing fucking cartwheels in the yard, that she felt seen and that she felt important and that she mattered. And so I'm in this ceremony and like, I'm just transported back to that time and that place. And I vividly remember saying out loud in ceremony, I miss you. And he just says, I miss you too. And it was actually really fucking crazy. I've never told this story publicly, but like in this house where we were, and there's people that are going to think I'm fucking nuts for this. There's plenty of people that think I'm nuts. We're past that. You know, we all are a little bit.
Nuts.
Jimmy Buffett says if we weren't all crazy, we'd go insane. So fuck it.
I like that. I like that.
But around Lake Travis, there's all these deer everywhere. And so in the morning, I went out and they have like deer feed there. And I love animals. Like, so I'm like feeding the deer, this deer feed, whatever. And there's like a family of like 12 or 14 of them. And all of a sudden this big buck comes over, like multi-point buck, just big guy. And he kind of comes over to me, like not all the way though. He's kind of just watching me. And I was like, oh, he's just making sure I don't mess with his family, whatever. And when we're in ceremony, my eyes are closed, everything like that. Like, I don't know that he's there, but in my eyes, I saw the buck. And then the buck in my ceremony became my grandfather. And then, you know, tons of other stuff happened in the ceremony. I get plugged into like this weird collective consciousness, various traumas from my life like come up and they kind of almost just like poof out of my body. It was just like from like heart center, just like.
It's like it had a physical home in you and now it was leaving.
And I could like feel it go. And like our medicine woman was like playing drums and all this stuff like throughout, singing, beautiful voice, like all this stuff. But then I come out of ceremony and I like come up and I was just still the whole time, like tears kind of just peacefully running down my face. And my friends that were helping with the ceremony, they look at me and they go, Emily, the buck. And I was like, yeah, I saw him in my eye, like in my ceremony. And my friend Lauren goes, no, he was watching you the whole time.
The buck was actually
real
there.
One. She has a photo of it.
I just got goosebumps.
She has a photo of literally, I'll show you when we're done, of this buck that I saw that morning that was my grandfather in the ceremony. Like
came to check up on you during
yes, was sitting and staring at me throughout my ceremony.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And then our other friend was like, yeah. And then there were hawks flying over you the whole time. And our medicine woman, she was like, yeah, masculine energy just follows you and protects you.
You had ground and aerial support for that
literally.
trip.
And I was like, what the fuck? Huh?
Wow.
And so like that all sounds great. And so I was like, okay, wow, I really don't know what just happened, but I feel really good about it. Excellent. So then I come home a couple days later and I'm up in my, I'm just back in my house. My dog is still at my parents' house because they were watching her while I was gone. So I didn't have her there and she's like super grounding for me. But I just remember getting back to my house and like sitting in my room and just my brain starts going down a rabbit hole of
processing.
And then like it was so stupid because I was just watching like something on Netflix I'd seen something on social media where somebody had to close their business because like there weren't enough customers or whatever. And it just hit me really emotionally. I was like, wow, that means that like, does that person feel like their dream doesn't matter because like their business went under because there weren't enough people supporting it? And I just went down this rabbit hole of like meaning and all of this stuff. Then I started thinking about my friends and I was just like, for some reason, the thought just popped in my head of like, I am her and she is me. And that really weirded me out. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. If I'm not going to exist one day, do I exist now? Wait a minute. What is existing? What? And so the existential crisis begins. And like, I'm somebody that I'm super grounded. Like my friends joke, they're like, you are literally a root. And I'm like, pretty much. And then for the next few months, I felt literally and physically out of my body. Like I was blasting off into outer space every single day. And like people that have done psychedelics might understand this, or like I know people that this is kind of how they exist all the time. Like people that are super existential all the time. And like there were days when I literally had to stop and just like make a meal just so that I could have the physical process of like chewing something to remind myself that I had a body.
Like bring me back here.
Yes. And it was just this giant, and I was like, what the fuck is this trying to teach me? And so to make like a super long story short, that like crisis lasted from November up through like all of January. Well, actually I did like a healing ceremony with psilocybin and MDMA in January, which actually really helped and started to bring me back into my body a little bit. But I finally started to feel like a normal person, not like having panic attacks, not having nightmares, not having just like freaking out in the cosmos every day in around February. And the meaning that I was able to make of this, and I don't know why this is the meaning of it, but I think because I struggled so much in that few month time span with just the concept of life, what's at the bottom of that funnel at the most narrow point is how precious it is, and how rare it is, and how, yes, fleeting it is, but also life can be long and we can make it long and we can take the truth. Yeah. And we can take the existential part of like, oh, if everything is nothing. If everything is nothing, I believe in duality, then we are also everything. But at the end of the day, I will only get to be this person with this family, with these friends, with this body, with this soul. Actually, the soul maybe will come back as like a dolphin or something. Who knows? But like this combination of all of that, all of those elements, one time.
This particular recipe.
Exactly.
This human recipe right here, right now.
Exactly. One time. And I'm somebody that I've always been a really big dreamer, and I've always wanted to do these big things. And it was almost like I held myself back from them because I was scared, because I didn't believe in myself enough. And like I've done a lot of, what other people have deemed as like cool shit, like competing in bodybuilding, building a business, all this stuff. But there were still parts of me that I like held myself back because I was like, oh, but what if I fail? What if it sucks? What if I hate it? What if it, especially with like, this is the first time I've lived outside of driving distance in my family. Like this is across the fucking country. Yeah. And that was like the one thing that I really held on to in terms of not taking a risk on. And it's actually really funny. The day after ceremony, we were all sitting at the table and everybody was talking about like, hey, what are you trying to call into your life right now? And I was like, I got to get out of Ohio. And that was the first time I'd really voiced it to a bunch of people. And I was like talking about how scared I was about it.
Maybe even out loud to yourself.
Yeah. And it's funny, when I started going through like personal crisis mode, I thought that meant that I wasn't going to be able to do it, because I'm like, well, now I'm in this personal crisis. Like I need to stay here. Like I don't have the mental wherewithal to move. And then it was like all of a sudden, and not really all of a sudden, because I did a lot of fucking work, did a lot of therapy, did a lot of all of that after this. And it was like a fog just cleared. And when I came here and I felt that way, it was so funny. I believe in the universe and I believe in timing and I believe in something, not sure what yet, but I'm like, yo, I've experienced too much shit for that to just be in my mind. But if anybody can take that as they will. But I was just like timing all of that stuff, coming here and kind of thinking like, oh, I could actually see myself here. And then I kind of like called up some places and I was like, oh, maybe I could live there. And then, one gets accepted and I was like, oh. And I was like, I got asked to speak at an event that was in 2 weeks. And I was like, I wonder if I could maybe grab my keys for the apartment then. And they were like, yeah, sure. And I was like, oh. And then I was like,
hey, universe, what about this? Hey, what about that?
And then I was I wonder if I could get movers to move me across country. Booked them a week out.
Wow.
And I'm somebody that I have been so calculated and planned out my whole life that this was literally the universe being like, hey, bitch, bet. And I was like, okay.
Take it. It's yours.
Literally, I was like, I'm done holding myself back. Like, this is it. This is the last time that the universe, you never know. Like, this could be the last time the universe offers me something like this. And if I don't say yes, am I going to regret it? And that's become a big thought in my mind, too, of like, yo, if I don't do this, do I think I'll regret it? Maybe not in 5 years, but maybe in 50. And I was like, you know what? You just might. So just fucking do it. And also, if you hate it, it's not permanent.
True.
It's not permanent. Yeah. And also, I was like, if I got through that, thinking, just pondering my own existence every day, pondering the existence of everyone that I love every day, while also running a very successful business. I was like, if I can do all of that, I was like, I can handle this. I've got my own back. I trust me. And so it was honestly the biggest blessing in terms of self-trust and learning the preciousness of this unique existence, which is something I've always known. I've always had like spiritual leanings and spiritual tendencies, and also just like I make meaning out of everything. Like meaning is really important to me. So I've always had like those little breadcrumbs, but I was like, we're really embodying that now. And
very on brand for you.
That's one of my favorite phrases. And literally people associate that, like my friends associate that phrase with me, on brand. And like, it's funny because when I say on brand, I'm like, yeah, we're talking about a brand, but like I see my friends or just like people or things like as quote unquote brands of like, it is literally the embodiment. The brand is an embodiment. So like when I see my friend's brand, I'm like, yes, this is your brand and this is your brand and this is your brand. And I'm like, yeah, we're finally like 100%. Maybe before we were like 80%, 90%. Now we're living like 100% on brand. And it feels really fucking good.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It really, really does.
Yeah.
I've finally been living on brand for the past 2 years. Good. And it's like at 35, I started living my life for the first time.
Wow. How's that been? And let me just say, it's palpable. Like I've followed you for a long time because we've been podcast pals for many, many years. I think since like 2017.
I was going to say, I think 17.
Yeah. And like it's palpable. And that's why I also believe in energy because I'm like, if energy's not real, then I wouldn't be able to tell that through a screen.
You know, I thank you. And like, that's cool to hear. And you're not the only person that has told me that. And that just like hits different.
It really does.
That hits different versus, I mean, I've been in the content game for 5-6 years, 7 years.
Yeah. A little over 8. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, I'm curious, would you agree? It's like, it's different when you do something, you know, we create things out of our experiences. We create things out of like the versions of ourselves at the time, what we're doing, what we're experiencing professionally, personally. That's just kind of the nature of, you know, would you agree? Kind of like what we do, how we operate. And it's been different. It has hit totally different. Like the first time really, really hitting of, hey, this thing was cool. And like it helped me in a thing versus you're different.
Yes.
Like this was different versus you're different. And it's really cool to see you like that.
It's a doing versus a being. There's something so just like it hits you right in the literal soul, like in your chest when somebody sees your soul.
Yeah, that's it.
And you're just like, wow. And also too, like, you know, the energy thing, energy does not lie. So I think we can trick ourselves into thinking like, okay, yeah, I think I've done all this work, but am I just like putting on a show or like, is this really like a real thing? Like we question ourselves. But then when somebody, especially like people that just follow you online and don't necessarily really know you can see it, it's just like, damn.
Yeah.
I'm doing it. And I think we should pause to like celebrate that more instead of just like brushing over it. Like really, like something I've been trying to get into the practice of this year is anytime anybody pays me a kindness, I say, thank you. I receive that.
Yeah.
Because it's literally like, because like I used to have a really hard time like taking praise. And I think a lot of people do. Like we want to always be the giver instead of like, to receive it feels really good. And like when somebody sees your soul and reflects that back to you, it's like, fuck yeah, I'm going to receive that.
It's a gift. It really is. Anytime I think we get a compliment, we get gratitude, we get acknowledgement, we get any of that, this kind of picture comes to mind for me. It's imagine someone coming to your house and they just drop a present off at your door. You open up the door, maybe even just look through the keyhole and you go, cool, thank you. Versus imagine if you open up the door completely, let that person into your home, brought them in that present into your house, had a fleeting, even if it was like, or a few like conversation, like, tell me more about this gift. Like, be in my home, be in my presence, like while we kind of like really experience this thing together.
Yes. Like allow that exchange to happen. I think we're coming up on a really special time and we're kind of already in it where like people are valuing genuine connection more and we're not turning it away. And so that's such a beautiful example of that because what is more human than seeing another human's soul and like loving it?
That's it.
That's literally it.
Yeah.
That's like honestly, it's been like the why behind what I do for forever. As far as like just people being them and having the space and safety to do so. And like the vehicle for that has largely been like physical health. But like there's literally nothing more a hallmark of the human experience than connecting, seeing each other, loving each other, and like the soul component.
And I love that the most. And like it's this weird kind of reciprocity, I guess, if you will, of all the things we're talking about, but specifically like how to really solidify who your people are, to become more aware of the growth that you've had, just to connect with other human beings in a totally different way happens so much more significantly when you can look at a person and it's just like, you are fully fucking you.
Yes.
You are you. You are you. You're getting there. But like,
and we love you still.
Yeah, we love you still. Yeah, exactly.
We're
all still kind of getting there, but like, just like having that, what's the word I'm looking for? Conviction.
Yes.
It's conviction in who I am here and now.
Yes.
But also conviction in that like I'm going to change tomorrow. Like I am here and now. I am this rock in the river, but this river that is still carrying me down.
And I think that's a really important touch point too, especially like with the context of like social media and like people following people, all this stuff. I think we do a disservice to people sometimes of and we might even do this to like people in our lives, like viewing people as fixed entities and typically fixing them where they came into our lives at, of like, this is who you were to me when you came into my life.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they change, a really great example of this is social media when people are like, oh, I miss when you were that way, or I miss when you were that way.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I miss Fitness Chase. I miss, Vlog Emily, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually get a lot of people that are like, they don't say it this way, but they're like, I miss sick Emily because I was more relatable, which I think is terrible because that means we're building a culture of relatability based on when people are at their worst, which isn't the individual's fault. It's the culture's fault. I think we should do way more bonding over our joy and creating more joy. And like, that's obviously not something that any individual person can fix. It's largely cultural and like so many systems at play and like way out of my scope. But like, we can't just continue to trauma bond or suffer bond or only see realness and relatability in people's pain. We have to see realness and relatability in each other's joy and in each other's success because that's the only way we elevate everyone's frequency together.
Amen, sister.
Otherwise, we all stay down here in this little low vibe land. And it's not that you never have low energy or like just negative energy, but it's like that can't be the only thing we connect over. That can't be the hallmark of the human experience.
I want to kind of play the devil's advocate a little bit with you. I feel like because of
Love it.
all the different type of work that you've done, I feel like you can kind of, maybe make this argument.
We can plan some water.
Let's do it. All right. So I feel like maybe the person listening, and I've definitely gotten feedback like this, like, oh, has one psychedelic experience and, is a shaman or like is enlightened. Definitely a lot of people kind of go the spiritual bypass route, I think. But aside from, you were having these realizations and it catapulted your life and changed your life through using psychedelic medicine, using these plant medicines. What if that didn't happen?
Right.
Can we get to these life-changing realizations on our own volition, aside from like life smacking you, from like trauma, from like a death, a loss, like all these things that I think that only happen when we're just kind of going along the normal route of being a human being. Inevitably, we're going to experience pain and suffering. And in that pain and suffering are our opportunities, whether we realize it or not, to change, to pivot, to learn. Unless we go looking for them through these heightened change states, these heightened consciousness change states, through psychedelics. I'll even make the argument, like my very first change state and out-of-body experience and major trauma reliving was through breath work.
Yeah.
I was transplanted into my dying father's body through
God.
breath work. Just changing how you do that for 20 minutes,
create
shit gets
psychedelic
wild.
states with that.
Exactly. Psychedelic is a state of mind.
Yes.
I've come to believe that.
Absolutely.
So how can we get to a psychedelic state of mind to even just tap into the potential, our own potential that we don't even know is there?
Yeah. So I fucking love this question. And first of all, for anybody that thinks that doing psychedelics makes you more spiritually enlightened or makes you egoless or whatever, I just chuckle because it goes back. One of the first phrases I ever learned in strength and conditioning that applies to every area of life is the more I learn, the less I know.
Yeah.
And it's actually reminded me so much more. It's really funny because there was like some internet troll that was like, yeah, you made psilocybin your personality. And I'm like, not really. It just did a lot for me and I talked about it. But
it's definitely my personality.
It's funny. We did like my friends, we did like a big 3 astrology, like drug version. And mine was like, mushroom sun, cannabis moon, mushroom rising, or like the flip flop or whatever. And I was like, yep, makes sense. But not in the sense, on brand, not in the sense that I have the wisdom, but like, that's just my personality. But it's like, it's humbled me so much. It's let me realize and truly know that I don't know shit. I don't know shit about fuck. And that's part of the fun of the ride is that surrender, is that unknown, is that like, I don't know anything. And like, it's been so humbling in the sense that it's like shown me the deepest, darkest parts of myself that I hid. And I'm like, you cannot pretend you know everything and that you're egoless if you haven't even dealt with your own shit, bitch. Like,
Mira.
Literally.
Mira.
Yep. So like anybody that acts like they're super enlightened because they've done psychedelics a few times, like, nope. This is just our experience.
I heard this term used recently to describe someone like that, and I love it. I overheard this girl calling her partner, ex-partner, she's like, you're a woke fuckboy.
Oh, my, I'll be honest, there's a lot of those in Austin.
Yeah. Have you been to LA?
Oh, God, I haven't been to LA in a long time. Yeah. I can see that. But as far as like getting to that place without psychedelics, experiences like yours are complete proof that we can do that. And like I believe like we can create DMT in our brains through stuff like breath work. So it's like we can absolutely achieve a psychedelic state. Or I've also been in environments of really good people whose energy I love being around, no substances involved, and felt like I'm on MDMA.
Just life.
Exactly.
life.
Exactly. So I think we can absolutely achieve that. But I think if we're trying to get to like what's the first thing you can do, and people are going to hate me for saying this because I talk about this all the time, is you have to get still.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We can achieve these things on our own, but not in the culture and the pace that we spend the majority of our lives in right now. And I can fully acknowledge that for a lot of people, the ability to take that space and time, even just 5 minutes a day, is a privilege because not everybody has that. You know, I am a childless, like single person. I don't have the same life as a single mom working multiple jobs. Like, I totally acknowledge that. But the ability to get still, not just in the sense that you have that space for stillness, but that you are willing to get still with yourself.
It has to be a choice.
Because so many people are scared of what's going to happen when they do. And as long as and the reason you're scared is because you know there's something there. You know there's something
Consciously
there.
or subconsciously.
Consciously or subconsciously.
Something keeping you safe.
Precisely.
You or ego or whatever.
Yeah. And like some of those things, like how I said, like my trauma brain, like put holes in my mind of stuff that I went through. Like there's a reason for that. Mm-hmm. And digging that stuff up fucking sucks. And it's some of the hardest things you will ever go through. You will realize things that you didn't even know you needed to realize, that you didn't know were there. It's like going into like that old attic that is super cluttered and like walking around with a flashlight and like stumbling upon this corner that you didn't know was there. And then you like unpack this box or whatever, and there's like all these rats in there and you're like, oh my God, what the fuck? Like
that's exactly what it is. Like, sorry to interrupt you, but like that just gives me the most beautiful analogy. Our brains, our life experiences up to this point is our attic in our house.
Yes.
Everything up there we have stored, or our parents, a loved one, like, oh, little Johnny doesn't need this game anymore, your favorite stuffed animal, or maybe something that was less friendly, but it's not going away. Like it's up there in storage, collecting dust, collecting rats. I mean, festering. It's all still up there. Wow,
and it's like
beautiful.
you go into that attic and maybe you find that stuffed animal from when you were a little kid, and it shocks you back into this memory from when you had that stuffed animal as a little kid and you weren't ready for it. And now you're sobbing in your attic. And you're like, oh, it's just a fucking Tuesday. I wasn't ready for that. But something else I've learned from this whole experience is how numb I was to a lot of things. And like, I still experience like a vast, spectrum of emotions and a vast degree of emotions, but
because
realizing,
you're still human.
Right. But realizing how numb I was when I felt what I would, up to this point in my life, I know there will be bigger pain, like when I actually lose these people that I love so much, or like whatever happens. But just the pondering of my life and the people that I love and losing them and all of these things, like thinking about my family, like thinking about this, thinking about that, experiencing that pain, and even like experiencing the pain of the loss of the part of myself that did not have this awareness. Like that deep, just like fucking screaming, crying, writhing, or like even reliving the pain of like the 16-year-old that went through some shit that she'd buried for a really long time. That depth of pain opens you up to the depth of joy that you are able to experience. It is all two sides, same coin. If you do not face the shit, you are cutting yourself off from the utmost joy you could ever feel in your life.
One can't exist without the other.
Precisely.
I believe.
Precisely. Life and death, winter and summer, pain and joy, like all, like the concept of duality really is everywhere around us. And so the more you try and cut yourself off and numb yourself to the stuff that hurts, the more you cut yourself off to the best feelings you could ever experience. And I think a lot of that comes from gratitude. Like I'm able to look at time with my family, or like going out to Joshua Tree and seeing the fucking beautiful desert, or like even just watching
the tree.
Oh my God, I want to go back so bad. Can we like plan a retreat? Please, God.
Please, absolutely.
Let's
That's another thing. Like talking about things that aren't like, you don't have to have a psychedelic state or change state.
Yes.
Literally just me personally, the second I come up over that hill to get into the Yucca Valley, the entire energy changes me already.
Oh yeah.
That's dead ass sober.
100%.
Stillness.
Yes.
You can't get any more still than in the desert.
It's truly so cool that you bring that up, actually, because I went to Sedona in September and then Joshua Tree.
You were telling me about the...
one of my friends, her name's Lauren, she's wonderful. She described the two energies of the places really beautifully. And it's like, they're both very like energetically, just you feel different places, right? Sedona kind of feels like you are tucked away and protected from the rest of the world. Like Sedona is like your cocoon. And then when you're in Joshua Tree, you feel like that is the entire world. You feel like that's all there is.
Oh, parts of it. Like, have you gone into the park? Like,
no, we actually didn't have the chance to do that.
You go into the park. Ooh. You go into the park. you will not see another car, human being, building, any sign of human civilization for as far as your eyes can see.
Oh, that's
You're literally on a different planet.
Yeah. And that's what
Incredible.
it feels like. And I think that's really important too, because especially in the Western world, like we get really self-important and like all this stuff, but it's nice to remember, not nice necessarily, but kind of nice too, to remember how small you are sometimes, but also how much you matter. Like one of my friends also, when I was kind of going through everything, because I did have a brief nihilistic stint within all this. I was like, none of this matters. Like nothing matters. Very not on brand. Definitely not a nihilist.
Been there. Yeah.
I tried it on. Yeah. I tried it on. Didn't like the outfit. But when I was having
What's
one of those
the return
moments,
policy on this?
literally, does this still have the tags on
Resistance
it? Like,
thing.
Bye. But she was like, Emily, how can you say, and this was so beautiful and so poetic, and I just completely rejected it when she said it. I was like, fuck this. But she was like, Emily, how can you literally say that you don't matter when just like the skin that flakes off of you every day becomes the dirt in the ground and grows the flowers? Like, how can you say that you don't matter?
Wow.
How can you say that? And so like to anybody listening out there that's struggling with anything and feeling like they don't matter, how dare you say you don't matter? Because you do, because you literally make up the ecosystem that we are in, or even like how humans co-regulate like heartbeats and shit. Like every single person on this planet matters, and they deserve to know that, and they deserve to feel that every single day. And so it's like getting out in nature, you get to experience the oneness. You get to experience the oneness. And I think too, we get really detached from nature in our minds. Like we're like, oh, we're humans with like our fancy consciousness and our cars and our machines and our computers and our Wi-Fi. When at the end of the day, we're animals. We're just animals that just so happen, however we got to be this way, evolved consciousness. And what a beautiful gift that is. It's a beautiful and harrowing gift at times, but it's a beautiful gift. And so use that gift to remember that you are also part of this, honestly, cosmic fuckery. Like, what? Also, like, somewhere I've landed out of this is just like the amazement I have in life. I'm just like, the sun just comes up and goes down every day. And
pretty sure Neil deGrasse Tyson coined that term.
Love him.
He describes this existence as cosmic fuckery.
Did he really?
No, I'm just making that up.
I was going to
Like,
say, damn.
I'm just imagining.
Go Neil, love Neil.
Imagine that in Neil's voice. Just like,
I could see
what is
it.
life? Cosmic fuckery.
And he could explain it beautifully with quantum
Oh,
physics.
he could, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
I want to see the equation for cosmic fuckery now. It's like however we got here. But truly, like, when you look around and see how amazing all of this is, it's like, oh my God. Like I just walk around wide-eyed. At first it was wide-eyed, like I'm terrified. And now I'm like, wow, cool. It literally is like being on a roller coaster.
Life is, life is the trip, I think.
Right.
Life is the trip.
It really is. And like, again, bringing it back to nature, because that's been like super healing for me, and like being able to be here and like go out on the kayaks and stuff like that and just like see the turtles or like see the trees or even just see the water and like experience being part of that. That's another piece of advice I give to anybody that's like struggling with anything or just like wants to find more clarity of themselves. Go outside.
Go outside and get still.
Yes. That's literally stillness is the key.
Look at all of this coexistence happening.
Like
we are in
touch the
constant
ground, like-
coexistence.
Yes.
With nature, with earth, with our neighbor, these energetic forces. I mean,
100%.
the heart emits an EMF wave, an electromagnetic field, up to 3 feet, if not further in some people.
Yep.
Like, so that's palpable, real energy that you take with you everywhere. So, and all of that is just like, we're almost there, like 3 feet, 3 feet. I mean, we're like,
thanks for sharing orbits. Really?
I mean, you don't think that doesn't interact with other things
it really
and people?
does. And also, like, how could you then explain, like, why you just, I mean, sure, there's, like, some fancy neurological, psychological, whatever, but, like, why you just feel different when you're around certain people. The conversation could be the same, the environment could be the same, but just their energy. Like, there's something about when your fields cross orbits.
Truly.
That you're just, like, in the power of, like, getting people together, like, retreats and stuff. I hosted my first retreat in April with one of my best friends, and, like, good God, that was, like, being on better than any psychedelic I've ever been on, just the power of community. And I think we're in a time right now too when people are starting to crave that more. It's like craving that connection, craving that like intimacy versus just the whatever we were in before. Yeah.
What about the good things?
Yeah.
What about, thank you so much again for, for sharing and opening up. And I think that's in the journey of self-exploration, however we choose to go about that. Typically you hear about, I uncovered this pain. I revisited this trauma, or I'm going through something. What about the good shit? Because good shit happens too.
Oh, 100%.
That you can like step into your power, that you can own, that you can embody, that you can all these things. Like, what does that look like for you?
Oh my God. Well, first of all, I think one of the biggest joys is just the opportunity to learn about myself. Like, and understanding why I've functioned in life the way that I have. And like, you know, like this little breadcrumb makes sense. Or even like completely unrelated to psychedelics. I was diagnosed with ADHD this year at 26. I'm 27 now, but like back in October-ish, I was finally diagnosed with ADHD, and I was like, oh, my whole life makes sense. I've already figured out how to manage it because, you know, it's been 26 years, but like, oh, this little thing makes sense. This little thing makes sense. And so like,
I put a name to this thing.
Exactly. I have language to describe it. So like that journey of learning about yourself, for me, that's really joy bringing. And like, I get a lot of joy and excitement and fulfillment out of transformation. I mean, like, I think that's part of why I loved bodybuilding for 8 years. It's just part of why part of why I love the business that I have, like running a fitness coaching business, getting to watch people transform, getting to watch yourself transform and feeling that. It's like, it's invigorating because we've talked about, like we kind of, other people try and put us in this way, but we do it to ourselves too, like view us as static creatures. But then when you can see like, oh my God, no, I chose different and different happened. And also literally where I'm at right now, like in this physical spot, so much fucking joy. And like, you don't know when you're in the shit that on, like I said, the other side of it is this supreme joy. Like it's taking the risk. It's believing in yourself. It's believing in the universe. Like I think me coming here, it took an equal amount of me trusting the universe, but also ultimately trusting myself, because and then also learning and realizing like, damn, did you really not trust yourself to do this before? And now I'm here and I'm like fucking loving it. Like
it's like I've been telling you for like 27 years.
It's literally like the way I view it. Like, does the video get like posted somewhere? Like, are people gonna be able to see this? Okay, great. Yeah. So it's like, if we view the timeline of self, it's like, okay, like we're along here and it's almost like a higher self comes in and like drops down and is like, hey, here's this thing for you. And you're like, where the fuck did that come from? And then you're like, okay, I guess I'll take it with me. And then like higher self, like, okay, we're going to pull you up here. And then it's like, okay, we're going to pull you up here. And okay, we're going to pull you up here.
You're
and
like
then
the visual queen. Like,
thank you.
The addict, the like parallel selves running.
I love a
like,
metaphor.
I love that.
Love a metaphor, love of it. And that's just like how my brain works. Like that's how I see things. But it's like your higher self.
You need to hire like an animator for this stuff. That sounds so good.
Actually, thank you for that idea. I might run with that. Your idea. Love that. I am you are me.
That sounds like a trending reel if I ever heard one.
God, trying to keep up with reels, man. That's a fun time. But like truly, I think the biggest joy has been like the self-trust and the self-understanding, and also the acknowledgement. Like when I was finally able to like acknowledge the trauma that I went through when I was 16 and like the ones that followed after that, acknowledging it and then being like, you don't have to identify with that.
Wow.
Yeah. You don't have to carry that. And I know that there's probably people that are listening to this that are going to fucking rip me a new asshole for all of this, but especially this. Like, you have no idea what trauma is like. I'm like, yes, I do. Yes, I really do. Just because I don't talk about it on the internet. I know what it's like. Been there, gone through it. You can't label somebody else's experience.
Exactly. You can't categorize. You can't compare trauma.
Right. And so like somebody else's experience of this might not be this way, or they may never arrive at this point. And that is true and valid for them. But like for me, I was like, okay, this is what happened. This is how it affected me. This is how I could continue to allow it to affect me. Like I could say, my trauma has made me this way. Or I could say, I'm going to develop a new pattern with this knowledge that I've acquired about myself. And I'm going to do my damnedest to live differently and in a way that doesn't make me a prisoner to what happened to me. I'll use it instead. What you don't transmute, you transmit. And so I'm going to transmute it instead of transmit it. And when you transmute, you alchemize and make it into something completely different. So it's like, yes, these experiences shaped me and they impacted me, and they're part of the chapters, but they're not the titles. I'm going to pick the title. And so that honestly is the ultimate freedom. And it's not a perfect journey. Like there's
liberation. Yes.
And there's still going to be times where, trauma triggers come up or like this, that, the other thing comes up. I'll have existential moments, whatever. But the way that the majority of my life is and the way I choose to handle it. And once again, those might be lines on the pages, but they're not the titles of the chapters. And the titles of the chapters are always up to me and they're always up to you. You get to pick them. And the title of the chapter is what the focus is. That's like what you're about to expect when you read the book.
Yeah.
And so it's like, this could either be like the thing that broke me or the thing that gave me my wings. Like, it could be the same thing. It's just how you view it.
We all, I think, truly become stronger at the broken places.
100%. 100%. And like, there have been times when I've like been like, wow, I kind of wish I just had like an easy life and like like the not easy life in the sense that my life is aggressively hard right now, but in the sense that like I never went through anything or like never, I had like, all of my grandparents died from various diseases, like, and I was super close with them. Like my mom had cancer when I was in first grade. Like I went through all of my stuff fairly young, like all of that stuff, like been through some shit. So I'm like, wow, what would it be like to like not have had that or like, whatever.
Sure.
But I'm also like, it's texture. It's texture in the story of my life. And like, once again, the two sides, same coin, because I've experienced that depth of pain, like the depth of joy that I get to experience is, that's my brand. And I can't wish for somebody else's brand because that's not what the universe gave me. Like I have my brand, you have your brand. And you know what? Maybe I could have that other brand and like go to a different store, try on a different outfit. Don't like it any better. Like, so it's just like, why I'm not going to what if myself and, play that game. I'm going to make the most of what I do have and who I am and who I choose to be too. Like, okay, well, if you don't like something, change it. You've changed a lot. You can change something else.
We would not be here. I would not be this brand of me if it were not for the most, in my opinion, in my experience thus far in life, the most traumatic event I've ever experienced.
Absolutely.
Would not be here.
Absolutely. And I think if we can, because I think a lot of people carry shame for their trauma. And obviously, like I buried mine for 10 years to my own self. Like I was so ashamed of it to my own self that I just didn't address it at all.
Sure, yeah.
And then you project that onto like other people. People are so ashamed of their shit and so scared that other people are going to reject them for it that I get it. But I've had this thought so many times, if everybody's walking around with a mask on, what would happen if we all just took them off and like really did the work as a culture to not let people just get away with their bullshit, but just genuinely hold space for people that are going through shit. There's a difference between letting people get away with bullshit versus seeing people and holding them through what they are going through in a sense where you're like, I'm here to support you, not just let you get away with things.
Yeah.
And like, if we could actually create the energy of come as you are versus come as who you're told to be, which at the end of the day, if we're all walking around with masks on, who the fuck is telling us who we're supposed to be? Like,
yeah. That was like a mind blown instead of a mind blown.
Yeah. Because you're just like, wait a minute, this makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
And even like talking about this stuff, like, I'm like, you know what? There's going to be people that hate me even more than they already do for this entire conversation. And you know what? I'm secure in myself. So I'm good. Like,
love that.
Yeah.
Well, because I know that we know now who you are, what you do currently, as Coach Emily, how do you, knowing what you know about this experience, and I think I know you're a great coach, and great coaches not only are present for the needs of their clients as human beings and their particular goals, but you consciously, subconsciously channel your own experiences because in some way, probably some reason, like that's why you're working together, because you all see some version of yourself on some timeline. How do you translate this into a coaching experience, into a teaching experience with another human being?
Yeah.
I've kind of felt this way for a long time up until this type of work over the last couple of years. In my coaching practice, I got to the point to where I wanted to start everybody before like this super deep stuff. I just wanted to like just talk behavior change and just like emotions and thoughts, because that's really what matters most, because you're going to change physically.
Yeah.
And when you change physically, you're going to see yourself, you're going to see your life, you're going to see everything differently. And that inherently is going to change internally everything for you. So I was like, why don't we just go to the internal stuff first?
Yeah.
So that's kind of my long-winded way of saying, how do you coach and teach this to other people, knowing like what's on the other side waiting for them?
Right. So actually it's funny. You say, why can't we just get to the mental and emotional stuff first? I'm going to challenge you. I personally view the physical body as the gateway to emotional and mental well-being and spiritual growth. Because if the vessel doesn't feel good, if the vessel feels unhealthy, if the vessel feels out of alignment, like when I was dealing with breast implant illness, or like when I was younger and didn't take care of myself, like you don't have as much space to feel and think and actually feel what you're feeling, right? Because if we talk about feelings, feelings exist. We logicize and intellectualize our feelings so much. Our feelings don't just exist between our ears. Our feelings exist somatically. So like if you're physically unwell, how are you going to get in touch with your feelings?
True.
So I really believe in the power of the physical body and the wisdom of the physical body as like kind of the base level of growing as a human, as a full spirit, like a full mind, body, soul. And like, I think it's really interesting. You know, actually we were just talking about this with Joe at lunch. Like you see a lot of people that came up around us in a similar time in fitness, primarily in fitness. And now we're getting into like the mental health and the emotional well-being and the spirituality in this space. And so it's like we paved the ground with our physical well-being, right? And so
those were the initial bricks we had to lay first. Absolutely.
And I think too at a cultural level, and like I can get real down a rabbit hole with this one, but at the end of the day, I think a lot of us are really disconnected from our bodies, from the food that we eat, the way we move our bodies, the messages we're told about our bodies, things like that. So, and especially for women, one of my biggest missions with coaching is to reconnect women with their bodies, because when you reconnect a woman with her body, and same for men, when you reconnect them with their body, you reconnect them with their truth and with their power. Yeah.
I have a story for you after this about that.
Absolutely. But so first of all, helping people come to a place of physical wellness and using like kind of contrast of like, okay, well, what doesn't feel well? Like one of the things that I really like to have do that does tie in the mental and emotional as well is like, hey, I want you to write out, I call it like your main character energy, but it's like your highest self. Like, what
this
I
post
just made
the other day.
I just made a post about this. So was literally
HSB, is that right?
Higher self behavior. So like, what is it that your higher self, or like the version of you that you want to be, and that'll evolve and change over time. But like,
I want to put this on the video right here. This is so important.
Literally, what is your higher self? Like, what? Write out in just excruciating detail what their day looks like. What do they do when they wake up in the morning? What are the exact details of their morning routine? What do they eat for breakfast? How do they work out? Who do they hang out with? You know, what coffee shops are they going to? What are they wearing? Because what you wear is actually a nonverbal form of your voice. Like your presentation, like it's part of your brand. It's part of your spirit. What is your higher self's brand? And when you break all of that down into teeny tiny little things and teeny tiny little aspects, and especially the small stuff, because people want to think that, oh, to become my highest self, it's all in the big moments. Absolutely not. Who you truly are and actually what your life is primarily made up of is that small stuff compounded over time. It's, do you drink water first thing in the morning, or are you slamming coffee before you've hydrated yourself? It's those little teeny tiny things done over time that start to shift. And so when you make that list of like all of the HSB, so all of those higher self behaviors, pick the singular, literally one thing, because you need it to be as easy and accessible as possible. The one thing that would be the easiest thing for you to start doing right now. And start doing that for a week, for 2 weeks, then maybe pick another one. And literally take me seriously. If you're like one of those people out there that's like me, that's a go-getter, that's athletic mentality, you're like, oh, I want to do the hardest thing, like the most challenging thing. No, we're starting at the easiest thing because that's the thing you're most likely to do.
True.
Start with that. And then you'll see it's like the timelines start to compress on each other. It's like that thing where it's like the higher self reaching down. It's also you reaching up. So you're literally coming down to meet hands.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, I love that.
And so it's like, hey, I see you and who you are, and I choose you versus this timeline I've been living on. And who you currently are, there's nothing wrong with that. So holding that duality as well of like, I want to go somewhere, but I'm also completely whole and beautiful and wonderful as I am right now. And also acknowledging there may be seasons of life where you are not your highest self and just doing the best that you can, but getting really clear on who is it I want to be and what's the easiest way for me to get there. And then you'll start to realize, because I think we also do this thing where, and I talked about this in that post, where we tell ourselves that our highest self is light years away from where we currently are now. And we use that as an excuse almost of why we never got there.
I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm still working. I'm still working.
Precisely. I'm still working. Or when you know, maybe get to the end of your life, God forbid, like, oh, I never achieved that because maybe it was just too big of a push for me. When you identify those little teeny tiny things that are actually really attainable, you start to see, I'm not that far off from that person. It's kind of like what Ed Milet says, one more, like you're one chance away, you're one choice away, you're one behavior away, you're one phone call away, you're one connection away, you're one podcast away. Like, I know listening to some of his stuff changed my life and like changed the way that I show up in the world. Listening to one podcast introduced me to this whole world, for one, of Ed Milet, but like this whole world of, oh shit, I can do so much differently and it can change me in a, like the smallest things can change you. And so again, acknowledging that who you want to be is not that far off. You are now responsible to become that person. I think if you have, and one of my friends says this really beautifully, another friend, Lauren, she says, if you have the privilege to heal and you don't, how dare you? If you have the privilege to pursue your highest self and you don't, how dare you? Because there is somebody out there that is in the shit of their life, or maybe they're in a shit circumstance and they don't know how to get out of it yet. And they wish they had the chance that you did. How fucking dare you? That's so, like we said at the beginning, you get this one life. You get to be you one time. One time. And so who are you going to be? And if you don't try and find that out, if you don't try to create your life and you had the chance, I don't want to hear shit from you.
What I love most about this, everything that you just said, amongst many things, it's just like and again, like knowing that you are you. It's like, I know the whole time you're talking, I'm listening, of course, but I'm just like, she tells herself this shit every day.
Oh, literally.
She tells herself this shit every day. I know it.
Oh, I have to pep talk the fuck out of myself. And honestly, that reel came out because I was like, I was in a really rough place a couple weeks ago. Like I was just going through some weird shit and I was like, yo, bitch, pick yourself up. So it's not, I'm never, like I think people have this perception that because largely because I'm a female and I speak really strongly, but because I speak really strongly, like she thinks she's better than everyone else. She thinks she's above everyone else, all this stuff. I'm like, no, literally the stuff that I'm saying to you guys, I'm just saying one step ahead from where I was last week. I'm telling you this because I'm never telling anyone something that I haven't lived myself, and typically in recent times. And like a lot of times, it's stuff from like years and years ago, but like the stuff that's fresh on my mind, like you're going to hear it. So it's coming from a truly humble place of, bitch, I have been there and I'm going this way now instead of that way. And I want you to come with me because I know how bad it feels to be back there. And if I can think of something that's helped me, maybe it can help one other person. And it sounds so cheesy to say that because everyone says, oh, if it can just help one person. But truly, if it can help one person, you throw a rock in the river, the ripple goes one ring by one ring. Because you never know, like, maybe you go out and you have a really great conversation with somebody today about like something that we talked about here and that changes them. Maybe I go out and have a really great conversation with something we talked about today or something I talked about with Joe at lunch or whatever, and it changes the person that I'm talking to. It's this web of not? Exactly. It's the web of healing, and it all this giant radical change that we all want starts in intimate settings like this.
If you're doing anything and everything with even the smallest level of intention and meaning, how can it not impact anything and everything after that?
Absolutely. It literally is the butterfly effect. Like, and so that's why it's humbling. And it's also like, yeah, we have a responsibility. We have such a responsibility to each other. And that's why the whole, like, I am you, you are me, we are one thing. It really is true.
Yeah.
Because we can help and heal and elevate each other through the things that we are experiencing, have experienced. And it's like, I think the best people are the ones that are like, hey, it's not lonely at the top. I'm bringing you with me. Whether you decide to come or not, that's not my choice, but I'm going to do my fucking best.
I'm not climbing this mountain so that I can be at the top. I'm climbing it so that I can tell you how I got here.
Absolutely 100%.
Throw a lifeline, give 100%. You something.
Right. And if you decide that you don't want to hike, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do my fucking best because I genuinely love people. And I want us all to love each other. It's literally like me, girls, like, I just wish we could all make a cake and eat it. Like, literally, I am that person. Like, I am such like a love bug. I'm literally like, guys, like, we're going somewhere cool. Let's fucking go. Let's go together. Like, we're all getting better.
Do you have any cool people? Bring them too. I want more cool people to be around cool people.
Exactly. And like, I can't be around giant groups for long periods of time. Like, I need my recluse time. But like, collectively and energetically, I want us all to win. And there is room for everybody to win. I'm so fucking tired of this narrative of like, yes, competition exists, but like, I love that shit because that means there's room for all of us.
This just hit me. This might be smart. You ready? Okay. This might be smart. By saying that, I'm admitting that I'm an actual idiot. But
aren't we all, man? Like,
competition only exists if we are the ones competing.
Yeah. That's 100%. That is intelligent. Oh,
I was mic'd up. Okay, just cut it. We'll
caught the mic. I was catching it. I was catching it. I wasn't fist bumping you. That's not what was happening at all.
But think about that. I mean, if we are of the mindset that there's so much competition, there's so much this and that, well, that's only because you're choosing to have a competitive mindset.
Yes.
And now there might be a time and a place to have a competitive mindset, but to think that you are living, acting, creating, being in competition, like that's just you, bro.
100%. And you know what? Two of my best friends, Caitlin and Kaylin, they both run female-focused online fitness coaching companies.
Caitlin's been on the show before. Yeah. She's a homie.
And it's, you know what? Yes, we are in a technical sense competition because we are in the same niche, literally this very similar demographic. But you know what it comes down to? Same city.
Yeah.
You know what it comes down to? It comes down to the brand.
Mm.
My brand is going to resonate with people that maybe one of theirs doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe somebody will resonate with their brand and not mine. And that's okay, because at the end of the day, people are getting the help and the elevation and the whatever it is that they need.
You're still accomplishing what you want to accomplish.
100%.
And that's raising everybody.
100%. And like, it's this weird idea that some people are for you and some people are not for you, but we can all be kind of going towards the same mission. And in my opinion, that mission is helping people heal and be healthier and be happier.
Yeah.
And just find their wholeness. And if somebody finds wholeness, even if I'm not the one that got them there, I am fucking stoked.
We're all just walking each other home.
Truly. And like, that's another one of those phrases that people that like maybe don't identify as spiritual or like have not started like this journey of their life yet, they hear that and they're like, oh, that sounds so nice. And it sounds very like children's booky or whatever, but it really is true. Like, and I don't know if any of us know exactly where home is, but it's just home to ourselves and what that looks like for each person.
This is home.
100%.
This is home.
100%. And then it becomes like the home of the, like the electromagnetic field. It's like we got like little light beams, like
literal, just
it's lit.
Pew, pew.
Can you imagine? It's lit. Can you imagine if we like walk around with little spaces and you're just like, here's a little
Working
zap
on
of
it.
my energy.
That's like a Black Mirror thing. What if that
Right.
was instead of, hey, did you like, watch, comment my thing? You know, did you accept my photon? Like, you're not going to accept my photon?
You
Like,
rejected my photon? What
I
the
mean,
fuck?
you clearly just had it bounce off your own shit. Like, what's up with that?
Are you in my top photons? No, I'm supremely offended. You rejected my energy. Okay, you just rejected my soul. Like, all right, it's fine. It's all
Damn,
good.
there's got to be a way for us to actually. There's got to be some kind of lens or something to like. We could.
Oh, I
If
wish.
we could see that,
Yeah, I would love that.
then like we would know. I mean, if I know it's real, but like people could then see it
Right.
and know that it's real. Like then, like, yo, like my energy is going where? Like,
Dude, I've thought this before. Like, what if our like energy, as far as like the intention of our energy, people with good intentions and bad intentions, was visible and that was currency?
ooh.
Because then you know what? That's the case. People with bad intentions.
All right, we
Off
got to
the
get a script
island.
writer. This has got to be sold to the
I'm
next
telling you,
Black
this would be
Mirror.
like an excellent film. Like, I think it would be. I'll be in it. I'll dust off my acting skills. I was Mulan in the 8th grade.
Created by, written by, directed by, produced by, starring Emily.
And then people are like, yep, she's a narcissist. They say that anyway. It's fine.
Well, I want to just so like I'm a good interviewer and I kind of go back and close a loop. I'm like, oh yeah, I forget that I'm doing a thing here. Going back to the whole like body mind connection stuff.
Oh yeah, that's where we were.
Yeah, yeah. What is life? I'm going to go back to this was during a very mild psychedelic experience, but pretty often for me, kind of most Fridays, I will medium dose psilocybin, medium dose, and I'll get outside.
Is that like a 2 or a 3 for you?
It's usually like at least 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some like not higher than 3, but usually like 2. And like I'll work, you know, and work early, kind of like force myself to detach from the week to really transition into R&R time. I'll go outside, I'll walk, I'll do whatever. A couple months ago, I did that and I came back home and took a little bit more. So it was like a medium and a half and, lit myself some incense. I just got weird with myself. It was great.
Love that.
If you're not getting weird with yourself, what are you doing?
You're not living it right. Like
She knows. She knows.
If it's not weird, I'm not there. Like,
And then I rolled out the yoga mat.
love that.
And there's a whole nother level of mind-body connection. When I wouldn't recommend like working out, physical exercise, but sitting in my living room in a safe home.
Yeah.
Doors were locked, like disclaimer. And just my dog chilling and on my yoga mat on the floor, not doing any crazy poses, just like stretching and like folding and just like I had not ever connected with my body in that way ever. I already said ever. What happened was, I mean, just a whole nother relation point to like my injuries and stuff. So I had kind of worked through, like physically I'd rehabilitated.
Yeah.
12, 13 years later now, like I'm at a point to where I am not my injuries. I am a totally different physical self.
Yes.
But like I was telling you earlier, I've been revisiting that period of my life of being a broken human being, broken young man, and just like my entire military career that I hadn't really thought about in a way before. And just like the like emotional trauma of what happened of wow, this really, really sucks. Losing the career that I had planned for the next 20 years of my life, this identity wrapped up in family legacy of carrying on the family tradition. All that emotional trauma that I didn't know happened that coincided with the physical trauma, it was this like a sonic boom that I felt and I think heard just leave my hips. I think it was doing like a pigeon pose or something. And all of a sudden it was just, whoa. The next day I went in and was repping I was deadlifting, repping what I used to do for just single reps. Like just for like 2, 3, 4. And just my body was just, okay, finally now like we're in a good spot.
Yeah.
And then a whole nother level of appreciation. I went to, in LA, of course, we have a very special yoga class where you can have these experiences.
That'll get me out to LA.
Yeah. and then again, Are
there goats? Are there goats in this one?
No, but there's a goat with a van that lives down the street.
They really need to just bring it all together. Yeah.
That would be interesting.
Goat yoga with special goat yoga. Would fucking love that.
It's bad to the bone. I'm 12.
Same.
But it was like this guided meditation, yin yoga thing. It was amazing. And I was, again, still in this gratitude experience of, or just re-understanding my injuries, blah, blah, blah. And like, it was this cue of like, look at your body part that you're stretching. Like just look at, and for me, I think it was pigeon again. Maybe pigeon pose has like magic powers. And I was just looking at my foot. I wonder if there's anything
like root sacral chakra oriented. Yeah, like there's all sorts of stuff. Or if that's just where you store your trauma, since bodies can store traumas physically.
Oh, I get root chakra shit all the time.
Yeah,
so maybe.
Yeah.
And I looked at my foot and medium dose, and my foot was looking pretty wild, some cool colors. Very safe. And I looked at my foot, and Emily, I started crying. I looked at my foot. Shit. And I was like, I have a foot. I have a foot that's connected to a leg because what I was trying to do, the whole reason I got injured was because I had just like given up on life. Wow. I was so hurt from the death of my father and just all this shit happening. I was just actively pursuing being deployed. I was actively pursuing just like the most dangerous position, the most dangerous situation I could find myself in. And that wasn't meant to be. I got injured before that could ever happen. And then I went through what I went through. It sucked a lot. A patient for like a year and a half off and on. And all of my rehabilitation, I was in this special medical hold unit down the road in San Antonio with all these other guys that were coming back from where I was trying to go. Missing legs, missing arms, head to toe 3rd-degree burns. And like I've said this before, but like I had a whole new level at that moment of appreciation for my body and a whole new level of appreciation for the attitude that so many of those guys and women had. Like they physically, objectively had it way worse than me.
Yeah.
Because they were coming back in pieces. And I was like, I fucking have a foot. I have a leg. And it took me a long time to kind of get back to this point to where I could even like bend like that. But like this privilege, this gratitude, this responsibility, just the physical connection to the everything was just profound.
Truly. Well, and like
I haven't looked at my foot the same way since.
Right? You're like, God damn it, I love you, buddy.
You're fucking great, dude. We've been through so much shit together.
I love you so much. But also, like, if I can interject like a spiritual lesson, like, what do you run with? And so, like, were you running from stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I absolutely was running from that whole traumatic experience.
And so it's like you literally couldn't run. Thank you, foot, for not letting me run.
Is this a billable hour for you? Because that was amazing. That was amazing.
This is free. Damn. This is the free 99 friend discount. But literally, like, what do you run with? And you couldn't run. You were physically incapable of running.
I was literally physically trying to run away from my problems.
Yeah.
And I was like, nope.
And then this exact path brought you, like you said, in that breathwork experience, back to your dad's body. Like you full circle loop, talk about a loop closure. Like you couldn't run. You literally could not run from that. And then you were brought back to it. And now you sit here and you cry in gratitude at your foot. Like how
I'm that weird guy in yoga class, just like crying on.
I think I don't know anybody that's like gone to a yoga class, especially like a yin class, and not just had a really emotional experience. I've had some really emotional.
I pretty much strictly do yin yoga.
Yeah, same.
Now,
That's like the only one that I like. And first of all, I'm like, I just like being on the ground. Like, I
just shavasana for
literally. I'm like, yep, this is my yin yoga. It's just shavasana the whole time. But truly, like, and the ability to, I think something that's really beautiful about psilocybin and why it's something that I love really deeply. I'd say that's like my favorite of all the various medicines I've tried at this point. Like, I feel a very deep connection to it. is the way that it makes you pause. And I don't know if your experience has been like this with psilocybin, but anytime I'm shown something even really challenging, it feels really loving. It's like, it's kind of like what we were saying with like going to your best self. It's also like, hey, when you're going to the hard stuff, I'm going to hold your hand while you go.
Everything is just wrapped in love.
Yeah. Yeah.
No matter how seemingly easy or difficult it is. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And so just being able to like sit in that stillness, in that space of love and get in touch with what your body needs from you. Like it goes to show how much we sit in or, you know, move in or whatever in doing mode versus being mode. And part of the invitation of not just psychedelics, but arguably like any health journey is like learning where you need to sit and be. Like I have all my, like to bring it back to like coaching, I have pretty much every single client do some kind of breathwork or meditation practice. I'm like, even if it's 5 minutes a day, you need this. This is part of your protocol. Literally, I'm like, and people will be like, oh yeah, I missed this week. I'm like, do it. Like, stay accountable to this because this is part. It should be like brushing your teeth, like taking care of the mind body together, and like creating that stillness to be like, whether it's what do I need, how do I cope with tough emotions? Like I literally just had a client last week be like, yeah, I had some like more anxious moments last week. And the first thing I did was like do my breath work. And I was like, wow, my entire career has just been validated. Like I'm done. I quit. I'm retiring. Like this is it.
You have graduated.
Thank you. I am done.
Yeah.
But truly like, and so within my practice, I try and like make it as integrative as possible as well. I'm like, yo, I'm not just going to tell you like what your macros are, what your workouts are. I'm also going to look at the quality of the stuff that you're eating. I'm going to ask you about your quality of life. I'm going to ask you about what's going on emotionally, like to the point that you're comfortable talking with. You know, what's going on at work, what's going on at home. Are you doing your breath work? Are you sleeping? Like truly taking an integrated approach to wellness and also within any client's feedback. And I think this has actually been like one of the hallmarks of our coaching at EDF because like our mission statement is like transformation through science-informed and heart-centric, human-centric coaching.
I love that.
Because from an actual like health perspective, we know that we can't change someone's health without it being integrated because there's all these different pillars of health. It's not just the physical, the nutrition, all that stuff. But also, for one, like back when I was starting, I was like, yo, the science-informed people, they're just treating people like case studies. Like there's something missing here. And I was like, no, real coaches, like, because I've had really great coaches, they coach with their hearts. And so like what we try and do is give them that science-backed information, that science-based coaching, that science-informed coaching, you know, take the whole integrated wellness approach, but then also literally just hold space for one and then hold up mirrors. Part of the gift of coaching is being able to read between the lines. And my favorite feedback, and I will humble brag this, some of the most common feedback we get from clients is you helped me learn about myself. And that is more valuable than anything I could ever teach you about nutrition or training, but it influences that because it helps you figure out when you learn about yourself, that's your container. You get to figure out how everything else on the nutrition and training side fits into it. Because you could give two people the exact same protocol and it's not going to work the same for each one.
Truly, yeah.
Or the exact same even
for
style
the same
of
person
coaching. Exactly.
Now or in a year.
Exactly. So when you can learn about yourself or even, you know, just learn about the science of nutrition and training versus just like, here's a meal plan. Like we don't do that. When you learn about the thing at a conceptual level or you learn about the person at a like pattern level, that transmits everywhere. That goes everywhere in your whole life. If you like notice, you know, a pattern of, oh, when I'm starting to feel, or when I'm not in a great place mentally, I don't take great care of myself. Okay. How does that show up in your relationships? When you're not feeling great, you know, mentally, how do you show up in your relationships? Or when you're not feeling great mentally, how does that show up in your work? When you're not feeling great mentally, like, do you completely sacrifice yourself and just go into work hole mode? I know I've done that. Like, I'm like, oh, I went through a breakup. Okay. I'm going to go work more. Because I have the time. I don't want to deal with this shit. But it's like, no. You can start to identify better sooner when your pendulum is starting to swing too far.
So true.
And part and part of the gift of coaching too is you get to sit with people and be there with them in times when their pendulum does swing too far. And, you know, a really easy example of that is the person that's like, yo, I went on vacation and I completely blew my diet and didn't give shit about fuck. Like, and you're like, okay, pendulum swung a little far this time.
Yeah.
Maybe next time it just goes a little less far and then a little less far.
That's it. It doesn't have to be get you way back over here.
Correct.
It just needs to be a little bit less far.
Correct. And when you can hold up a mirror to somebody and say, this is the pattern that I'm noticing, or hey, this is what stuck out to me about your check-in this week of what you said, or whatever it is. they can then, because we all repeat behaviors. We're all a bunch of patterns in everything that we do. When you can start to identify like, hey, I'm slipping into this pattern again. Like for me, when I was like going through that thing a couple weeks ago and I was just like not feeling great, one of my things is like, when I'm not feeling super mentally healthy, I kind of like stop putting myself together as much. Like I'll just like, oh, I'm just going to wear sweatpants, like this, that, the other thing. Like sometimes that's cool, but I genuinely am somebody that like, first of all, I love fashion. I love all of that, but I also
You look great.
Thank you so much.
You look great.
Thank you. I received that. But like, I know that I'm struggling when I don't put any effort into myself. It's not I just want to look good. It's the effort behind it. So even like, it could be something as small as like putting on my moisturizer before I go to the gym in the morning. I caught myself in that. I was like, I'm just going to like plop my hair on a bun on top of my head. And like, I don't feel that great about it. And it's going to annoy me while I'm training. But I literally just stopped and braided my hair.
Wow.
And I was just like, yeah, bitch, that's what your higher self does. Because she cares. She cares about the effort. Like it's never just the external presentation. It's the effort and intention behind it. So when you can start to help people identify those patterns within themselves of maybe where their efforts or their intentions start to slip, they can catch themselves sooner. And then they become, I don't want my clients to need me forever. I don't want my coaches' clients to need them forever.
Sure, yeah.
I want you to be able to identify that for yourself and to not need me one day, because then that's you becoming higher self and coming down in that timeline. That never had anything to do with me. That was you the whole time. I just held up a mirror for you to look into. And it was your choice whether you decided to look into it or not. And 99.9% of the time they do, and they're really grateful for it. And then they're able to hold up that mirror to themselves. And that's the ultimate gift. And fitness is, and like physical health is just a really easy way to do that. It's such a great gateway to do that because you tend to get a very tangible outcome. You get stronger. You see more muscle definition. Your digestion's better. Your skin is clear. Whatever it is, like the actual tangible, like I can see and feel this thing. Sometimes like the spiritual, mental, emotional stuff, it feels a little less tangible. I don't know about you, but like you don't meditate one time and you're like, oh, I feel so peaceful. It's like, I remember one time I was like walking my dog in the rain and I was like, oh, this is why I meditate, because this slight drizzle doesn't bother me as much as it normally would.
Wow. Yeah, yeah.
And so that's far less tangible than something like, yo, I lost half an inch off my waist this week because I did this thing and I changed this habit and I changed this pattern. Or I added 10 pounds to my squat this week because I recovered well and I slept and I ate nutrient-dense foods. Like you're giving people, you're like spoon feeding them awareness. And awareness is a bitch, but it's also a gift.
This whole concept, I love, you're giving me this other visual.
I love it. We love it.
Is like this higher self entity is, just imagine this, when we're struggling, when we're trying, when we're having the human experience, it often might feel like we're like reaching out into the darkness, like just, something like, help me, I'm grasping for straws. Imagine if you did that and you knew it wasn't just you reaching into the darkness with your hand open, just hoping anyone, anything, help me, save me. But you knew that you were going to be met with your higher self coming down at the same time, at the same place. So you're not reaching into nothingness.
Yeah.
You're reaching into and for the exact person, the exact place that you need to be.
Absolutely.
It's you.
You're reaching into everything that you have the power to be with everything that you currently are.
Yeah.
And what is more powerful than that? And like, I know that there's a lot of like people ask me all the time about like being single and stuff like that. And I get like, I get in my feelings about it sometimes. It's been a long 3 years, whatever. But ultimately at the end of the day, I'm like, what better gift than to have my own back and to be whole on my own and to know that whenever I need myself, I got me.
That's what's up.
Yeah. That's what's up. That is what's up. And like being able to, like as a person, whether you're in relationship or not, you have to be able to rely on yourself, and you should be able to lean on people too when you need it. But I think sometimes people get kind of sad when they're like, wait, the person reaching back was me? It's like, why would that be sad?
Yeah.
Why would that not be because isn't everything that you want to be the best you that you can be? And if that person is reaching out to pull you out of where you are now, you might not realize it's them, but it is. And that you should be so proud of it. Like I have the biggest fucking smile on my face. You should be so proud of that. Like,
love it.
And like going back and tracing through all the times in my life, like the way it's shown up is like, I'm just not a quitter. Like when I was going through breast implant illness, it was before it was popularized. It was before people were talking about it, all this stuff. But I just knew something wasn't right. And so I kept searching and kept searching and kept searching. And I had my super fucking down moments. Like,
sure.
Like real hard, real hard. but I never gave up because there was something, I vividly remember this. There was always something in my mind that I can like maybe say like, hey, that was your higher self. That was always like, you're meant for more than this in your life. And I firmly believe that. Even sometimes I believed it like the size of a dot at the end of a sentence. Sometimes, you know, maybe believed it like a basketball, other times bigger. But even when all I had was like the dot at the end of a sentence, I was like, I got that fucking dot. I'm holding on to it. I'm meant for more than this.
Isn't that cool it's pretty cool to believe in something, even if a certain circumstance makes that belief seem grandiose or seem very small. The belief doesn't change, just maybe your capacity to have the level for that belief at that time, but like it's still there. If you believe something to be true, believe something is, no matter how big or small, it still is.
Absolutely.
So like take ownership and joy in knowing that just because my current situation is diminishing or expanding that belief, it still is. I still am.
Absolutely. I still am. And like, what a great analogy for like the evolution of life. You started out as like a fucking little sperm and an egg, and then here you are.
Tiny little
Great
lad.
job. Like, here you are in your full-fledged glory. Made it out. Like, truly, no matter how small it is, like, it's still there. Like, there is still life within you, and there's still that belief within you. And I think belief is a form of power because it's saying I'm not accepting the status quo or just things at face value or the circumstance as it is. It's also trusting the unknown. It's surrender. It's like my belief. Belief isn't grounded necessarily like in fact or like surety. A lot of times belief is the opposite. It's I'm not sure. But I believe.
I believe that this isn't it.
Yes. And the no is just as powerful, if not more powerful than the yes. Like, this isn't it. Okay, let's go. Like, or I don't like this. Okay, let's go. Like, you learn so much more from the no oftentimes than you do the yes, because it causes you to think a little deeper. Because when something's a yes, it's just like there's an ease and a flow to it. You're like, yes, wonderful, great. We flow with it. If something's a no, it's like, why is that a no?
Stranger danger.
What does that feel like? Why? Get in touch with the body. Why is this a no? Where do I feel that no in my body? What is?
You have to make those faces too, or else it doesn't count.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, dude. I'm gonna have so many wrinkles when I'm older, and it's gonna be great. I'm gonna be like, I lived a expressive life.
That she did.
And so people always think I'm Italian, and I'm like, maybe in another life that doesn't show up in my DNA because like I just talk with my whole body.
Is your middle name Boopity Boppity?
It is not. It's Marie. It's the most basic ass.
Marie.
Boopity Boppity pasta. One of my friends is in Italy right now. He's gonna see.
Who isn't in Italy right now?
No, literally.
Oh yeah,
that's right. That's right. But no, my friend is literally. I'm so fucking jealous. He's seeing A Day to Remember in Italy. I'm like, what more melding of worlds could I want than to scream my heart out to if it means a lot to you and then go get gelato? You're living my dream, David. And I'm upset.
I doubt that you're not in some way living your own dream every damn day.
I really am.
Because of the whole previous conversation.
100%.
Well, I know I'm not being a good podcast host right now because we're way over time, and I know you got shit to do.
Oh, I have fuck all to do besides pack a suitcase. So.
This was great, but also this was also amazing because Stevie, we'll get you next time. I was supposed to have another guest like 35 minutes ago, but this was meant to be. So that
divine timing.
I love this. Dude,
this was such a pleasure. Thank you for this.
I have to ask you my final question, and I don't know if I had this question back in the day, like the first time you were on. Everforward. What does that mean to you when you hear those two words?
It can mean a lot. And I think it should mean a lot. I think it means kind of like what we were just talking about, not settling for anything less than the life that you want to live and the person that you want to be, and doing your damn hardest to bring as many people as you can with you. And just keep on keeping on from a place of really being intentional and really coming from your place of loving to help everyone else. I think that's what it is. I think it's literally the elevating of human consciousness.
I love you.
I love you.
You're an incredible human being.
Thank you.
And just truly, like I said at the beginning, please keep being you.
I plan on
everybody, please keep being you or trying to be you. Like,
be you. It's so funny at the gym that I used to train at in Ohio. I don't know if it was a typo on the license plate or if they did it on purpose. It was literally be you best. So I just carry that with me. I'm like, be you best. But it's like, hey, be you the best. Like,
You best.
Yeah.
You best.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have everything linked and listed for everybody in the video and the
Love
podcast. But if they want to connect with you more right now,
Yeah.
where are you hanging out the most online? Where can they go?
Most often, no matter how much we all love and hate it, it's the toxic relationship we all stay in. It's Instagram.
This is true.
This is facts.
true.
You can just find me at EM_DUNC. So M_dunk. That's where the magic is. That's where the party is. If you're interested in transformation through science-informed and heart-centric coaching, that is just my company, EDF Coaching. We are going through a little rebrand, so I don't know when this is coming out, but it might be a different one, a different by that time. So we'll
if
keep
they can
that
find
posted.
you, they can find it.
That's correct. Yeah. That is correct. Yeah, MDunk is the spot. I'm trying to get on TikTok a little more. The real MDunk on there.
Yeah.
TikTok is rough. I'm just kind of like flailing.
Yeah.
But those are the main spots. Email list is pretty popping.
Clip a video, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like, well, we'll see. We'll do it. But yeah, Instagram's the main spot, and you can find pretty much everything from there. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was true. Thank you for creating the space for me to have this conversation. This is the first time I've told the whole Bufo story.
Wow.
Ever.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad this was safe and this was the container and this was the moment for that.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.